All right. Thank you, guys. We figured out our issues and we're back live now. So thanks a lot, David, for joining us. I hope you can see me and yourself, and this time we'll be good to go without any issues. We'll just give David another 2 minutes. Um, Let me ping him because of the issues we're having.
Hello.
Hey, David. There we
I
go.
can't hear you. Can you
Can you
hear
hear?
me?
Yeah, I can. Perfect now.
I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, I can hear you clearly. Let me. That's odd. This is a. All right. I think we are. David should be back. Most of our technical issues are at least sorted. So, thank you for another joining us for another edition of Tashi Times. We have David from Fun Token who's joining us today. Been in the Web3 space for a long time. Been in gaming for a while. I think we'll have some exciting conversations. Um, it's been a busy week for us at Tashi. We have a lot of cool things that have happened. We have another 5 or 6 games that have signed MOUs with us. So you'll see a lot of announcements going live starting next week. I will be at CoinFest in Bali next week. So anyone that's there, please reach out. Would love to catch up in person. And I think, yeah, we're just getting David back on and then we'll hop into a chat. Thank you for your patience. Yes, I can. I hope this time we're all good.
Yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
had I had to switch to my laptop. So I
okay.
don't know. I don't know. I think these platforms sometimes they are wonky with different types of hardware. So
Yes, they definitely are. You think that by now, all these platforms would figure it out. I think that's what I kicked off with was that X had that problem when Elon was interviewing Donald Trump a few days back. So if a guy who owns a platform and has runs tons of businesses has technical issues, I think we're all mortals in comparison. So very normal for all of us.
yeah, absolutely,
So thanks a lot for being here. Real pleasure meeting you, and really excited to chat with you about everything Web3 and gaming. So I just
absolutely.
want to kick off with, you want to do a quick introduction about yourself and what Fun Token does for some of the folks.
Sure, sure. So my name is David. I'm the CEO of FunToken. FunToken is an OG project on Ethereum. It's a pretty old project. It's 7 years old. So it was launched in 2017. And for a very long time it's been a token and a decentralized currency that's been available on major exchanges like Binance, Gate, etc. Now the currency itself has been used by very big casinos in the Web3 space. But right now, my specific division, because we are actually a group of multinational companies, so my specific division is working on expanding the utility into GameFi and a little bit of DeFi. So to do that, we're creating different games that are featuring our mascot Mike. These are the first of these will be released late September. It's a kind of a Telegram game. The second game will be a game where you can win an NFT, and so on and so forth. And then we're also building a game browser, kind of like Steam, but focused on Web3 and with various devices that are inherent in Web3. There will be ways for people to sign up for spaces, ways for KOLs to promote themselves. And also actually we're adding a launchpad to that as well. So lots of interesting stuff. We're just basically trying to create a gamify ecosystem and really expand the utility, round it out, draw in more people, and get partners and stuff like that. So generally speaking, it's something that will be a win for us, but it will also be a win for anybody who is our partner.
Amazing. That sounds fantastic. I think that's exactly the ethos we have. I think Web3 and gaming in Web3 grows only when everyone collaborates and partners and helps people understand that what we're building and brings them into the fold. So I think super excited to chat with you and hopefully then partner with you and expand our ecosystems together.
Likewise.
So tell me a bit, if you don't mind. Like I think I understand you're relatively new into fund tokens. So how did you get into blockchain and gaming, and what's your journey been like?
Yeah, so I've been in as the CEO of this specific division of Fund Token for 7 months. I started working earlier this year, and really, when I got in, the focus was that we have this really great OTC asset, institutional trading level asset in Fund Token. Things like being listed on major exchanges, and having major companies behind you, kind of working and integrating you, major casinos. That's all a very big deal. And this token, because it's been around for such a long time, and it's back in its day, it was like a AAA token where VCs like Pantera Capital invested in it, etc. There's a lot of people that know this project that used to be called Funfair, and so we knew that we had a really really high quality product supported by major institutions in Web3, a very forward looking owners that really wanted to make sure that they expanded the ecosystem. And by the way, the owners are completely new and different owners than from the people that founded the project. So really, I believe that the organization was looking to expand the utility and the user base, and really that's where I kind of came in. My primary experience before this was building infrastructure. I founded my own protocol, Glitter Finance, which was at one point supported by Algorand Foundation, Polygon. And we basically build bridging software to bridge Algorand and Solana and different ecosystems. So I had a lot of experience with areas like business operations, HR, hiring developers, and really driving a lot of products to market, because being a small company, we still pushed an enormous amounts of software out in the market that worked for a while. And so my experience was delivering on new products, expanding, and kind of innovation and ideation. And so at one point when I came in, we kind of took a poll of all of the holders of Fund Token that we could contact. And we basically tried to understand, like, where did the community want us to go? Like, because we are incredibly established in Gamblify, but we wanted to understand, like, what is the best way for us to grow? And once we took that poll, it was very obvious that a large contingent of the community really wanted gamify, and they wanted a little bit of DeFi. And so that supported our move into it. And we felt that Web3 gaming has a really bright future. It's like the one of the most exciting kind of sectors in Web3. So it was a no-brainer for us. Like we were already established in the Gamblify. Let's try gamify.
Fantastic. That sounds super exciting. And I think there's a lot of things you said have happened, obviously, right? And you've obviously been there for a short period of 7 months, but done some amazing things already. Having been in the space for a while, and obviously, Fun Token, like you said, is an OG token since 2017. That's maybe 3 or 4 cycles into this whole industry. And 2017 is when CryptoKitty started, and that's when the whole Web3 gaming thing initiated. Since then, obviously, it looks very, very different, right? So since whatever you've seen from the early days to what you see it now, and even since I guess in the last 7 months things have evolved, what do you see are some of the new trends popping up in gaming, and where do you see this kind of going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Right. So I think right now, all of Web3 is kind of facing this crossroads where I think a lot of the experimentation phase is mostly done. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of experimentation going on, but back in, like you said, back in 2017, or even when I got into the crypto industry, which was 2020, there was still a lot of conversations about, oh, this is going to be amazing. We're not sure exactly how it's going to work, but we know that if we, that we put the tech out, that we will find its user base, we'll find its market fit, etc. And I think a lot of that is done because I think we've had around 3.5 years of bear market, and so that was both in a way good and bad. The bad was obviously that when you have a field full of startups, not all of them have the runway to make it through. But at the same time, it was also good because you start to kind of you start to delete the things that don't work. Let's say you start to kind of separate what works and what doesn't, and I think that's exactly what's been happening. And when the smoke cleared and we started to try to get into the positive market, and I think that we're still trying, because I don't think that we are in a bull market. I think that we tried in February and March and then kind of collapsed, and now we're kind of trying to crawl out of it again, which is a great sign. But I think that when you are when you are in this kind of market, you really start to understand that perhaps just selling tokens like what was done in the industry isn't the way to go. You need to create revenue streams, and beyond revenue streams, you need real users. You need people that actually like what you do. I think that the early models of Web3, pay to play, for example, I think that they were very interesting. They were kind of revolutionary in their day, but I feel like a lot of a lot of us in Web3 gaming are facing the fact that, yes, you want to attract the people that want to speculate, and maybe own that NFT, but you really also want to get the meat and potato gamers. You know what I mean? You want people to actually like your game, and not just try to somehow make some money off of it, because the reality is we will never be mainstream until people come to play these games to just have fun. You know what I mean? And so this is kind of the dilemma that we're facing. And I think that the other question mark that we're facing is, when do we start to focus on real revenue instead of trying to focus on making a token be expensive and being wanted? Because again, selling tokens is good. It's a good speculative thing. It's completely cutting edge. It's interesting. It's exciting. But at the end of the day, basics of business don't go away, regardless of whether your token is doing well or not. And when you base your entire company on a token, it becomes incredibly fragile. So I think that these are the questions that we're facing. I think what you're seeing increasingly, and I think that you're kind of seeing that with the advent of Deepin, that people are really trying to get into real world solutions, because they see that when you address, well, I hate the term real world, because I think the tokens are real world. They are instant, one-click technology that allows you to send money anywhere, value anywhere, connect people, etc. But let's say the world outside of the techies that love cryptocurrency, right? So outside of the people that love Web3, when you start to address those problems, then you start to have a chance to figure out where the revenue is and where the pain points are. So I think that's kind of where we are, and I think these are the big trends. I think that's why we're so big into deep in now, and I think the reason that Web3 gaming is so huge is because it's one of the really like pioneering sectors in Web3 that has a very good shot in attracting, as we call them in the industry, normies, into the industry to really dig what we're doing. And so that's, this is where I think all of the intersection of everything is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So I don't know how much you got a background about Tashi, but just to jump in there. So we're very much a deep in project, and not deep in just for the fact of raising funds, which, tons of projects have used deep in by doing node sales for that. For us, it really is an ecosystem play. So for us, how it works is all the players that come and play on a game that Tashi supports, they're actually providing consensus on their own hardware. So they become a node directly themselves. So they're actually running a blockchain on their hardware within the game. And when you open that up and allow players to provide their compute, even when they're not playing, that's when the real value comes, right? So imagine when you're playing a game, you're providing your compute, but even if you're offline, you can still provide compute and earn some extra money. So there's a real larger ecosystem that we're building out. And I think as hardware devices are, improving, it's good for the ecosystem that you don't need to go pay the cloud guys, right? Which charge crazy amounts of monies and have really high margins. And we can take that out and really focus on decentralizing and allow the players that are, the core part of any gaming ecosystem to start earning from it.
Yeah, yeah. I actually was familiar with Tashi, and yeah, I mean, I think it's an awesome thing that you guys are doing, and kudos.
Thank you. So, just to kind of touch on some of the themes, right? You said you have two games coming up. Are there any specific genres and categories that you are more bullish on, and where do you see things going? I know Telegram and games on it have been a massive thing this cycle. So, do you see that being a long-term thing, or do you think that would change in next year? And how are you seeing the evolution from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Telegram games are going to be huge. I think Telegram in general is just a completely, pun intended, game-changing ecosystem because I think what the founders of that company and project did is to create a social media platform that basically millions of people around the world use. And then after you have that and that's successful, to then add blockchain and then add different dApps to it. I think it's an incredibly brilliant move, actually. And I think that like, I think Musk with X is probably going to try to create something similar in that respect. Now, it may not be exactly similar because I don't think that X is ever going to have its own blockchain ecosystem. I don't think so. But I like they're not going to have the Ton blockchain like Telegram does. But having said that, I mean, I think that this is really the way to go. I think that these very large companies with their very established entrepreneurs that run them, they figured out kind of like the magic formula. Like, how do you integrate blockchain, make it more mainstream, attract users, and the solution was fairly simple and quite elegant. I mean, the solution is, you create a free platform that is very well made that everybody wants to use for different reasons, and then you add blockchain to that. You know what I mean? And you make blockchain as an extra thing. It's something that makes your life better. The fact that you can now send USDT on Telegram is a big deal. You know what I mean? It's a big deal. It's a transfer of money, virtual money, which speaks to anybody under the age of 35, and it's a kind of a freedom and certainly a decentralization. So I think that I think that when you add gaming to that, it becomes a huge deal. And if you look at Telegram mini apps as a genre, I think that's a genre that's really going to grow. But at the same time, I quite often play with my kids. I mean, this is my exposure to gaming now. I'm not, I don't do gaming for gaming's sake. I used to do, I used to be exposed to a lot of different games when I was growing up. But I'm old, but I have kids who love games, and I play with them. And I mean, honestly, like you look at a game like Among Us. I mean, it's really brilliant. You know what I mean? Like the things that they were able to accomplish, the how popular it all is. I mean, that's brilliant. It's a real trailblazer for all independent games. I mean, so I love these types of genres. I very much believe in the Telegram games, and I also love indie games, even indie games that don't necessarily always have like necessarily like the absolutely cutting edge graphics, but they just have a really good concept that's just fun. They figure it out, and it becomes something that everybody wants to play. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with the games we're producing at Fun Token. We're trying to create these games that look kind of a little bit like classic games, but have incredibly attractive characters and are just fun to play. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to create like some kind of a shooter game or something like that like has super graphics. We're just trying to create something that's genuinely fun for whoever wants to pick that up, and then integrate some token utility into that to kind of strengthen the utility of fun, and then kind of make it make it fun. I mean, make it something that works with tokens, with NFTs. Is fun to play and is easy and doesn't require you to stress or put incredible amounts of energy trying to figure it out. So that's kind of what we're after.
Yeah, I think I love that, because I think that's been one of the big challenges, is that earlier it was blockchain guys building blockchain and then adding gaming within that. Right now we have more gaming folks coming in, building games and adding blockchain on top, right? So they understand what folks are looking for. And I think that's been one of the big barriers, is that most Web3 games, they were built with the gatedness of having to connect a wallet first, or even create a wallet, because if you're a non-Web3 user, so you have to go through a bunch of barriers before you could play a game. And if you didn't go through those barriers, you don't access the game. Versus typically games were built like, come try us out first, right? And I think that's one of the concepts that Telegram's also done really well, where you earn all these points and all of these benefits are there, and you can eventually even convert them into tokens and so on. But you start playing the game first. You don't have a barrier to entry to start playing the game. And I think that's been probably one of the biggest things that has really evolved, because you have the folks in Telegram, and there's tons of Web3 folks in Telegram, but there's way more non-Web3 folks in Telegram, right? So if Hamster Combat has 100 million people playing, not all those guys are crypto guys, right? So you're getting all these people trying out a game and then eventually converting into crypto users, because they're like, oh, I got all these fun tokens, and I can do something with this, right? So it's a great way of getting new people into the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I completely agree with that. And just to put in a comment there, I honestly believe that the action of connect wallet through a browser has probably okay. So on one hand, it's a revolutionary thing. It still is. But on the other hand, the way that it currently works, you can actually argue that it has done more to cloister and 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 segregate Web3 from mainstream community than almost anything else, because most people just are not comfortable pressing in a button on the browser, saying connect, knowing what's out there and what could happen. So I think this is something that are the brilliant minds in our industry, we need to think about it, because it's not a workable solution. You can't have something pop up, because I mean, again, a pop up is an automatic red flag for most people who survived the early days of internet from 99 to like 2012. A pop up usually means a virus. So you're basically clicking on something, it pops up, then you're asking people to put in your secret or whatever, and all of a sudden you're expecting what, that people should be comfortable using your product. I mean, that's insane. That's only going to get you like a few thousand people that are deep into the technology. You know what I mean? So it's something that we need to address as an industry, and try to create better UI and better standards, basically.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So how do you see that evolving, right? Because today, one of the things we see is like everyone has launched their own wallets, and there's tons of wallets. And I think the way, if you see banking on the online world evolved was you just have streamlined APIs, right? So you kind of have a bank, which doesn't matter what it is, but you're kind of streamlined in the process of how you receive funds and so on. Now, obviously, like MetaMask is the number one browser-based wallet, but you have tons of them, right? So, how do you see the evolution of that? Because I think it's a great point, right? Do you see games building their wallets and they're already in the game, so the pop-up concept goes out, or do you see them, having integrations that make it more seamless? So once you've signed in, you stay signed in for a while. So I think there's tons of ways to do it. But as someone who's trying to build a bunch of these games, is that something you guys have spent time thinking about?
So, I mean, let's put it this way. From my point of view, there's a couple of really good solutions. The one solution is just, have a mini app on Telegram. If you're already signed in into Telegram and you trust where you've signed in, it already builds more of a rapport. Um, and certainly, if X does the same thing, and X has its own wallet at some point, that will be something that's much more trusted. Um, but beyond that, I think that the way that the UI works on browsers for smaller companies could be much better. For example, as you mentioned, you could have a wallet where you just log in by clicking a button, let's say at the top of your browser, and you stay logged in. And when you enter a game, it automatically either logs you in, or you just have to click accept or something like that. So in other words, you're not seeing pop-ups, you're not seeing a tremendous amount of movement. It's somehow more streamlined. For example, like when you enter online banking, right? You log in and you can stay logged in your online banking account. Like, I think something like that should be done for Web3 as well, where you just stay in, and you stay logged in, and you can use a variety of apps, and those apps have been approved and have been tested. So you don't necessarily have to worry that this app is malicious, because there has already been given, let's say, a score that's like, let's say, a safety score for the app. And at the same time, your wallet allows you to stay logged in, but in a way that doesn't trigger fight and flight, basically, with the pop-ups. So I think that there's a variety of way of doing it. In our company right now, we are very early stage in terms of what we're doing, because we've just never done gamifying before. So everything that we're building from scratch in house. Um, I would imagine that once we get to really releasing the game browser, we will be thinking about this very seriously. But at the moment, we're just really trying to push out the MVP, and really the main MVP will be sent out into the world end of December, even though our first game is coming end of September. So we're kind of in a situation right now where we're trying to create a basic platform, kind of like the first Ford car, if you will. And after that, we'll be looking into the comfortable seats and the airbags and all of that. But we will definitely be looking at it.
Fantastic. So walk me through, what does a gaming browser, like the browser that you guys are building, look like? How do I, as in someone who obviously doesn't have an understanding of what you guys are building, see it and think about it versus the standard browsers that we're using today?
I mean, it looks basically like Steam. You come in, you have a bunch of games on the storefront that you can download. The listing is going to be free, at least for the first phase. And we're just looking to build up an ecosystem of both our games and our partners' games. What we're adding into that is specific devices for Web3. For example, forums, ability to streaming, live streaming. We're adding, a place where KOLs or influencers can list themselves, potentially to join communities or join spaces. We're listing place where you can get into spaces and stuff like that. So what we're really done is we're kind of created a hybrid, or we're creating a hybrid between um, what has been done in Web 2 and what really you kind of need in Web 3 to make it interesting for people and bring the value, especially in marketing and exposure. So that's kind of what we're building, and we'd love to kind of put this kind of frame around our own games, but also then to expand it into the games of our partners.
Got it. No, I think that's definitely a much needed product. Like I'm hearing from a few of our partners that are launching Web3 focused hand phones, which are meant for just games. So you get all your games built in, and that solves for some of the problems that you were talking about, where once you've trusted the device with your wallet, it integrates directly into a game. We have a few partners that have fairly large catalogs. One of them is called Fungible Games. They work. They have it's a ratings and review platform, 700 plus Web3 games. So happy to connect you with some of these partners, and I
That'd
think
be
that's
great,
definitely
actually.
much. Yeah, very happy to. And I think so. One of the big needs, definitely in the Web3 gaming ecosystem, is some kind of a launcher which has integrations built into larger players, right? Because I think going into different games, I think the problem is discovery right now, right? Because how do you track what game is coming, what's happening outside of folks who are tracking their tokens, and so on. But just coming to the point of tokens, I'd love to hear your thoughts. That obviously your token kind of came out a few years ago. It's fully vested right now. How do you think between? And I know you did a survey with the token, so you probably have some answers from that. How do you think of the existing token holders launching a new ecosystem, potentially thinking of a new token? Is there any thoughts, like, are you connecting the dots, bringing the old guys into this world? What's the next steps around that?
I mean, Fun Token is somewhat a complicated project because we have a very young industry, and there's not a lot of projects that have a history, for the simple reason that not a lot of projects last beyond 3 years. You know,
Yeah.
and Fun Token is a project that has lasted for the last 7 years. So there's a lot of history there. We've had a lot of ups and downs. We've had situations where there was one founder, he created this AAA project, he then stepped aside. Another founder who was his friend came in, he tried to run the project, build some things, but then he passed away. All of a sudden, the project was kind of free flowing. And then, a new board of directors took it over, and then I came in as a CEO. I mean, there's been a lot of people trying to build on this project, and because the token was initially, even though it never had a platform, because the initial founder didn't build a platform for it, but it was built as a gamblify token, and so because it was built that way, it kind of became integrated into casinos, which was a natural thing. Big casinos.
Okay. I think we seem to have lost David there for a second. Sorry, guys. Let's give him a minute or two. It'd be just some device issues. There we go.
I think we had a connection issue, but
No
uh,
problem.
yeah, I think so. Basically, so there's a lot of community. There's a lot of old back holders, as we like to call them in the industry, that kind of came into this one project and this token that had one utility and prescribed purpose and is now something else. The project is kind of being reborn right now, I mean, and I think for our community, it's very exciting because it's exciting to see that a project that has survived for this long kind of is getting a new facelift, getting a new life, and the token itself is starting to become valuable. And the thing is that we are actually the first team that's really building a platform specific for this token. It's never been done before in this project, so it's kind of exciting, actually. And yes, we're kind of deviating from the original purpose of it. We're moving it into gamify, and it used to be this gamblify only project. But I think that there's so much utility that it has already in the casino space, because in some casinos you can bet on this token, in some casinos you get it as a reward token. There's a lot of stuff that people do with this token in the casino space. But I think if we want to really go kind of absolutely mainstream, we need to get our gamers on board. We need to get our DeFi traders on board, and that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to kind of make this into a renaissance project and give it a nice utility with a nice platform that can really back it up.
Fantastic. I love that. Just switching gears a bit, right? And I think this has been one of the ethos of Tashi and how why we started our business was we saw that blockchain was building in its own little bubble, and the real value is when you kind of break that bubble and combine it with web 2, right? So today web 3 gaming has 3 million gamers, and web 2 gaming has 2 billion gamers, right? So that chasm is quite large. And I think we're obviously all trying to break through that, and it becomes very apparent when we go to gaming conferences. I was at Gamescom and GDC last year, and you can see the gap between the two, right? And so just want to hear your thoughts. How do you see this playing out? How do you see yourselves bringing in Web2 guys and bringing in that ecosystem as part of this? Like, have you been to any conferences and any plans that you guys have to start attracting folks from that world over here?
Yeah, so I mean, we do go to conferences. We actually have a CBDO that is, specifically does that for us. Um, I tend to do a lot more online events, and then we have somebody who is very focused on the ground events. Um, the in terms of how I see it play out, okay. So the irony here is, even though there's only 3 million Web3 gamers, if you get even 20,000 users out of that, you're already like the king the king of it all, because like I don't think people realize how small Web3 and how young it still is. Like the technology is very exciting, but I mean, we're not talking about billions of users here, right? So I think that even within that 3 million, there's a lot of space to potentially have a very successful product. But if we're talking about really advancing and getting and onboarding those Web2 users, I think several things have to happen. The first one is you have to make sure that the games you create are actually attractive, and they're not, you know, in Web3. Sometimes when we have developers, they follow a certain dogma, right? And the dogma is a kind of a mentality, and what that mentality is something like, I love pixelated products, therefore I will create a pixelated product. Never mind how it feels, never mind like, is it attractive, never mind, is it nice to touch. People don't think about that, because they follow this idea that they have that something must be really good because they think it is. That doesn't mean that pixelated products are not attractive. You can make a pixelated product that's attractive, but you have to think about it. You know what I mean? And what we're seeing very often is developers in the Web3 space, because we're doing so much experimentation, they just kind of go with their own thing. They're very introverted, and they put out a product that has very little to do with what their end users want. And so that's a problem, when you don't have enough of those people in the industry that pull their developers aside and say, hey guys, I don't think that's going to fly. Like, I just don't. I'm sorry. You need to make this more comfortable. You need to make this more feel better. So that's one major problem. Another major problem is the idea in our industry that was very present, and I talked about this earlier, that speculation is king, and it's the most important thing and the only thing that you should be focused on. So pay to play is a revolutionary idea. It's a really interesting, but it will absolutely not sell you into the mainstream. It just will not. You will not get into the mainstream. You will not scale. Your project will fail. You will not be able to be successful if you base your entire game on pay to play, because the reality is the reason it's called gaming is because it's about fun. That's what games are, and so even if you integrate this pay to play speculation with the game, if you lose the essence of what fun is to the users, you will not be successful, because the mainstream users, the Web2 users, they will never dig it, they will never buy it, you know And so this is something that we need to think about when we are putting our tokens into the games, when we're integrating speculative instruments into what's supposed to be just fun and a kind of a competition. So I think these are two cornerstones. And then the last thing is, when you look at very successful games, like you look at Zelda, for example, from my childhood, like it was genuinely more attractive than a lot of the stuff that people are building even now. I just think that, making something that looks nice and is enchanting is really undervalued in our industry. Like people are so focused on just like making something that looks kind of geeky techy and something that integrates speculation, that they forget that like a normal person just wants to look at something and be enchanted by what they're looking at. You want to kind of get into that world, because what people forget is that this is, when we're talking about web3 games, it's not just all about techies, it's also about fantasy nerds. Like, we have to accept that, like, people that love fantasy, the people that will go to the Star Wars conference, the people that go to the Tolkien conferences, those are the people you want playing your games. That's your meat and potatoes. Those are the people that will spend thousands of dollars buying Darth Vader figurines and then storing them and storing those collectibles so they can either pass them on to to their kids, or to sell them later. Those are the people that have the money. And so when you don't gear it to them, and you gear it to just the techies that can kind of code, or the techies that can understand what coders do, you really limit, like, who you can attract and who's going to be looking at what you're doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. So I think our vision, or our CTO Ken has this thing where our Hippocratic oath is add no friction, right? So I know we'll be successful once we have games using Tashi at the back end, and large games, and the players don't even know if there's any blockchain involved, right? So that's kind of how we're thinking about this, because our longer term vision is you have large, massively multiplayer online games that can be run on Tashi, and the players can keep playing. And the studio's cost goes down significantly because they don't have the cloud involved, and the players don't care, right? Like the average guy, if you ask a Roblox player, how does this game run? He's like, I don't know. Like I hop in and I somehow connect with my friends and I can play, right? They don't know if it's AWS servers and if there's like a Polygon chain somehow that kind of allows them to do things. They don't care about any of that stuff. They care about, I open the app on my phone, it works, I can connect to my friends, I can play, I can chat, I can do all the things that I would like to do. That's fun. So I think that's kind of how we're thinking about this. But yeah, this has been absolutely fantastic. Any last thoughts you have before we can wrap up?
No, I mean, listen, I really enjoyed this. I'd love to invite you to do a space with us at Fun Token. We have a ginormous community. We get like hundreds of thousands of people coming to listen to us. I think last space we did like 500,000 people tuned in. Space before was like 900,000 people tuned in. So if we get a really exciting project such as yours there, I think it would be great, and our community would love it and would love to just continue to collaborate. So I'd love to invite you to our space whenever you can, and at the same time, very much enjoyed this as well. And I think the question's been awesome. So look forward to our communities interacting and your product and our product as well.
Absolutely. I think that'll be next week. I'm in CoinFest Bali. The week after, anytime, I'm happy to hop on. So I think we're connected now.
Awesome.
So we'll coordinate, and looking forward to collaborating and partnering as well.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks a lot, David. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And
Cheers.
thanks a lot, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye.